Hey guys, really quickly at the beginning of this video, don't forget that today is the day that NBA 2K20 releases. What did you say? No, that's what I said. Yeah, I'll try it again. Hey guys, really quickly, don't forget that today is the day that NBA 2K20 releases. I did it again. I swear I think I'm saying 21. Anyway, welcome back everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we're talking about something that I definitely never thought that I would be talking about. And that is the fact that the Brooklyn Nets signed Steve Nash to be their new head coach. I didn't expect this to be all that interesting of a head coaching search for the Nets. I had assumed that they were going to bring in someone like Ty Lue, someone that was well respected, someone that would be liked by the players, and that the head coaching position really wasn't going to be all that impactful for this team moving forward. But this is completely out of left field, and we're going to talk about just kind of how I feel about it in today's video. But really quickly before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload basically every single day, and leaving a like rating is also a great way not only to let me know that you're enjoying the video, but it also helps out the video a ton as well. With that said, let's go and get started. Okay, so my initial reaction when I read this was that I was surprised. And I probably, like some of you guys, when I first read the notification, I was like, wait, is he unretiring? Are we signing him to a contract to play? Oh, wait, Steve Nash is actually going to be the Brooklyn Nets head coach. And he has been doing some things in his retirement. Most notably, he's had a role within the Golden State Warriors organization, I believe, as some kind of consultant. Essentially, he's been around the team. He's seen the way the team is operated. He's watched Steve Kerr as a coach. And I guess the Nets felt like he was ready and the right guy to kind of lead this team moving forward. And it's interesting because I've talked about head coaching searches in a lot of videos recently, as a lot of teams need a new head coach. And I really wasn't all that excited about the pool of coaches that were out there potentially to be hired, because it's the same recycled names over and over. It's the Van Gundy's, it's Mark Jackson, Tom Thibodeau before he got hired, Ty Lue, who now apparently is going to be the head coach of the Sixers. But Steve Nash was just not a name on my radar. And I respect and I appreciate the fact that the Nets thought outside of the box here, and that they went and got somebody that they feel like is going to be a true difference maker rather than just be there, kind of like I feel like Ty Lue would just kind of be there, as I talked about in the Nets video recently. And apparently they had to do some convincing in order to get Steve Nash to be the coach in the first place. But let's talk about some pros and cons here. Okay, so the first positive for me here is that Steve Nash was around the Golden State Warriors. He watched Steve Kerr as a coach, and even though he's never been a head coach before, he knows what it looks like successfully, and he knows what it looks like on a championship level. Because for some people, their first initial thought when they hear that Steve Nash is going to be a head coach without any experience is that he never won a championship as a player, and that maybe they don't like Mike D'Antoni that much as a coach, and that was the guy that he kind of grew his career under most. But he does have that championship experience of being around the Warriors, and I think that is, it at least makes me feel better and feel more confident in his ability to come in from day one and be a really good head coach. You know, taking aside all the stuff that he did as a player, but the fact that he has not head coaching experience in his retirement, but he at least has had some opportunities to see what that looks like outside of his role, obviously, as a player. And you would imagine as well that not only being around Golden State, but being who he is, that he's going to be a pretty good offensive coach. He's going to come in with some, with a mindset and with some concepts that are really going to help this team score the basketball. On the other end of the floor, I certainly have some concerns, and obviously it doesn't just come down to what he wants to do, and we've got plenty of other guys on that staff that can help both offensively and defensively. But my first initial thought is that it's Steve Nash, right? Like, the team should be able to score. And then the next part of this that I think is the most critical, and probably one of the reasons why they pushed for Steve Nash as aggressively as they did, apparently, privately. I mean, obviously it's Steve Nash, right? Like, you are confident that because he was such a great leader as a player, because he was such a great player, because he was such a beloved teammate, that he's going to be a good coach. But clearly, they got Kyrie and Kevin Durant to sign off on this. And the relationship, most specifically with Kevin Durant, gives me a lot of confidence that this is going to work, because apparently they grew, a pretty decent bond while they were, together in Golden State. And I don't think they would have gone through with such a risky, kind of out of left field hire if they hadn't run it by either of those guys. So we have the Durant connection, but also obviously the fact that Steve Nash was a point guard in the NBA for so long and a very successful one, and his ability to relate to Kyrie Irving in that way is something that he is going to bring to the table that really no other head coaching candidates would. Like, there are other former point guards that were good players, but none of them were former MVPs the way that Steve Nash is. So those are definitely big positives. And then apart from that, in pros, other than the fact that he was a great leader as a player and beloved teammate and things like that, is I think it's really critical that they were able to keep Jacques Vaughn Vaughn on the staff, because that is kind of this nice balance between, okay, KD, Kevin Durant, like we're going to go out and we're going to get a guy that you guys have approved of, but we're also going to keep one of our guys in a very prominent role as the lead assistant in Jacques Vaughn, a guy that's been around, a guy that knows what it took to get Brooklyn to this point, to be in position to sign Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in the first place, and to have that nice balance of, yes, we're bringing in a head coach that you guys really like, but Jacques Vaughn has also been here. We're going to reward him for the hard work that he's put in by compensating him very well as one of the top assistants on the staff. And then, we'll make sure to keep that continuity. I think that's really, really important, especially with the players that have been there, rather than just kind of please guys like KD and Kyrie. Now, let's talk, of course, about some cons, because there certainly are some here when you're talking about bringing in Steve Nash as a head coach. And they're relatively obvious. He's never been a head coach before. He's never been an on-the-bench coach before at the NBA level. And even though everybody wants to talk about point guards as coaches on the floor and things like that, it's still a bit of a concern when you're not only bringing in a coach that's never coached before, but to a situation that's going to be pretty high profile with two relatively outspoken guys in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And if things don't go well, his ability to handle that and his inexperience in that role definitely cause some pause for me, and I'm definitely a little bit concerned about that. And then, of course, the age thing as well. He's very young to be a head coach, and his age relative to his two-star players is really not that far off. And we've seen this go wrong, specifically with Brooklyn before. I was really excited about the Jason Kidd hire at the time. I thought it was a little bit weird because guys like Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce were very, very old, and Jason Kidd was only a handful of years older than those guys. But I was excited about the hire at the time because I loved Jason Kidd as a player, and the connection between him and the Nets is obvious, right? And part of me thinks, well, what's going to prevent this situation from being any different than the Jason Kidd thing, where initially, he was okay, but then over time it was proved that he just wasn't ready to be a head coach, wasn't all that good, and just wasn't ready for that position. So what's going to be different about this? That's definitely a concern for me. And then, of course, this is just in general riskier than some other hires you could have made. You could have brought in Ty Lue, assuming he was interested in being, the coach in Brooklyn and coaching Kyrie again. You could have brought him in, and that would have been certainly a much safer hire, a head coach that has championship experience as a head coach rather than a guy that has never coached before. So certainly there's plenty of risk involved here, right? But overall, I actually really, really like this. I talked about this in the Brooklyn, what's next type video for them, how I didn't really think that the head coaching position was going to be all that impactful for them. I assumed they were going to bring in someone like Ty Lue that was just going to kind of, make sure that everybody had a common goal in mind and was going to keep the players together. But to go out and get someone like Steve Nash, like I said, that has the relationship with Kevin Durant, that can bond with Kyrie Irving and can bring these guys together, is beloved as a teammate, as a former player, is... I like the aggressiveness of this. I like the outside of the box thinking of not just going through, the same names over and over and over. Mark Jackson, the Van Gundys, who are we going to pick this time? And going with something different. I really appreciate that and respect that. And I understand that it could go horribly, horribly wrong because he's never been a head coach before. But my gut feeling is that this is going to be a really positive thing for this franchise. And of course, I'm biased, but that's just kind of where I'm at right now with the Steve Nash thing. It was interesting. It was crazy. It was something completely unexpected. But ultimately, it's something that I'm really, really excited about to see how it goes. And at the end of the day, if Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving aren't healthy, then a head coach, you could put me in there at head coach for all it matters, right? Those guys have to be healthy for anything to happen this year or moving forward any years in Brooklyn. But still, I like the hire just because it's different, and I really appreciate that. And yeah, there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.